All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another video call. Good to see everybody on screen. And if we could please start with a roll call.
Roger Jansen,
Present.
Nick Mihelich,
Present.
Brian Checkis,
Present.
Stephen Graham,
Present.
Michael Cuevas,
Present.
Brad McPherson,
Present.
Johnny Lee Dizone,
Present.
and Gregory Gabriel.
Present. All right, we've got everybody. That's great. I guess minutes, item 2 from March 10th hearing. Does anyone have any comments or deletions, additions, corrections, or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Minutes from March 10th approved. Item 3 today, report from City Urban Designer. Ms. Aponte, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, board members. Thank you for attending one more time through the Zoom. We're hoping we'll get back to real meetings really soon. This morning, I just want to announce that Elizabeth Levesque, that was the urban design planner, has left the city. She has moved to greener pastures. And now we have the urban design position open. We are posting, the position is already advertised, and we are looking for anyone interested in contributing and working in helping to create great downtown and continue the hard work that we are doing. So that's the announcement for today. We are definitely gonna miss Liz, and maybe at some point in the future, she will want to come back to the city and work with us. That's all I have to report for this morning.
Okay, thank you very much. Why don't we move on down to item 5, declaration of ex parte communication. Any board members have any declarations for today's hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll continue. Public hearing portion, section 6. Like John said, we'll swear in speakers for each case. And I suppose, Hope, do we need to do the general announcement on the mayor's dictate for COVID protocol?
Pursuant to Mayor Keith A. James's Executive Order 2020-05, issued on April 2nd, 2020, the City of West Palm Beach's boards and committees are conducting meetings through media technology and have released the requirements to have a quorum of its members physically present at City Hall. On April 14, 2020, Mayor Keith A. James issued Executive Order number 2020-09, which specifically provides the rules and procedure for conducting city meetings, including requirements for quasi-judicial hearings. To ensure the ability for the public to continue to participate in this hearing, it is being streamed live and available for viewing in the City Commission chambers located at City Center, 401 Clematis Street, on the condition that social distancing be practiced. Additionally, for those wishing to access the meeting remotely, they are able to do so directly through the applicable Zoom webinar link, as well as the city's usual media channels, including WPB-TV 18, the city's website, and the city's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter feeds. Anyone from the public who would like to provide comment on an agenda item is able to do so through the following. Number 1, in the City Center Flagler Gallery. Number 2, dialing 561-320-6599 and leaving a voicemail not to exceed 3 minutes. Number 3, sending an email or video recording to publiccomment@wpb.org, or 4, completing the online public comment form at www.wpb.org/public comments. Those accessing the meeting directly through Zoom may also use the Q&A or raise hand features. Regardless of method, please be sure to indicate the agenda number or case number for which you are providing comment. Everyone providing testimony must have video capability and will need to be sworn in. The swearing in will occur at the start of each case on the agenda. If you are about to provide testimony and were not sworn in, please be sure to indicate such and be sworn in before offering your testimony. After the applicant presents their case, staff will provide a presentation, and then the public will have an opportunity to speak or have their comments read into the record from previously received correspondence. The board will then go into executive session. Prior to rendering a decision, the board will confirm no additional public comments have been received by staff. And finally, for the members of the board, it is emphasized that Florida sunshine laws are applicable and you may not use the chat feature or any other form of individual communication to discuss matters with other board members, the applicant, or the general public during the meeting.
Right, great, thank you, Hope. Perfect, I think that puts us at today's cases. So let's begin with Code Revision Case 21-05, City Initiated Text Amendment for Article 4, Downtown Master Plan. And I guess we'll go straight to Miss Angela Jones-Van for the presentation.
You got swear in?
Attorney Weinger will need.
Sworn in. These are just general code revision cases, so it's legislative.
Okay. Good morning, Downtown Action Committee. I don't get a chance to come before you too often. Angela Van, Planning and Zoning Administrator. You just let me share my screen. If I did this right. There it is. You see it? Okay.
Yes. If you go to slideshow, Angela.
Yeah, I'm gonna start. Why is it doing that? Is it still showing the whole screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. This is a city initiated request for a text amendment. In particular, it's the entire code, but we're gonna pull out the side article for the Downtown Master Plan Urban Regulations of Chapter 94 of the Land Development Regulations. And this is to make reasonable accommodations that the Federal Housing Act requires for group homes, community residences, and/or recovery communities. To give you just a brief background, as the United States and the city struggled. What? Hold on a second. Stop share. Hold on, Anna's correcting me. Open, it is open. Oh. Okay, I got corrected. All
You're
right. All right. Now, to win the war on drugs and alcohol abuse, one of the essential weapons is in this recovery that we found out and most studies have shown is recovery residents. I may hear them in sober houses over the years. In 2018, the city hired the law office of Daniel Lawbird to do analysis of the city's current regulations. And these were for community residents, for group homes. And the proposed amendment is based on the study that was attached to your staff report that he did for the city. Just to give you a quick update on what we do now, current group home regulations deal with several types. You have a type 1, and for the most part, those are regulated by the state. Those are for your, like your mental, your ACL, not ACL, your small family for elderly care, foster homes, kids with mental disabilities, and that's also in the type 2. Your type 3 we had in our code was most for your large ACLFs, your large adult care living facilities, and type 5 was for your former substance abusers, your detox facilities, and inmate release programs. Currently, today, we consider a sober home not a community residence is permitted in any zoning district that permits residential. There are no distance separation requirements today. Any home with 3 or more unrelated individuals, we require to apply for reasonable accommodation in order to exceed that number. Number of persons we do today are based on 4 persons for each bathroom. So that's how we regulate the total number of people in a sober home. At one point, the city had approximately 137 community residents. Of that, 10 were located within the DMP area. Cities now is down to 30. And that's based on the industry tightening up, the insurance companies tighten up on how they pay out for sober homes. And also we're down to 30 that we know of. I'm not gonna say it's not more out there, but 30 that have a reasonable accommodation. And of that 30, 10 are currently certified with the state. The proposed new regulations divides them up into 3 categories. First, we have a family community residence, which is relatively, it's a permanent living environment, usually for a year or longer. And residency is not treatment. It's basically in a home. Primary function is to basically create a family environment for the residents. Transitional community residence is more of a temporary living arrangement and is more transitionary in nature. Basically, it's when somebody is coming out of detoxification center, they go to a transitional community residence, and then once they finish that, they can go to a family community residence when they're ready. And then the last is a recovery community. And this is basically we have a few in the city where somebody comes in and actually gets a whole apartment complex and rents the rooms out. The rental is only for, it's not to the general public, it's only for people who are in recovery. And this basically, again, is mostly in a multifamily dwelling unit facility. And all 3 are permitted in the DMP area, will be permitted with the new regulations. We have 2 other ones that we actually pulled out of the code, which is adult congregate living facility. And these will be permitted in core planning area in the special district planning area, except within the Mattis Waterfront District sub-district. And inpatient detoxification treatment center, which is our group 5, again, will be permitted. It is permitted today in the urban core, same place, special district planning areas, and Bedford Park District 5. But these be permitted only with a Class B special use permit approval by the DAC. Specific regulations to give you a rundown: family and traditional community residents are maximum of 10 residents, 660-foot separation between all community residents, so family, traditional, and recovery. And the requirement has to be licensed by or certified by the state of Florida. Recovery community has no maximum number of residents. It's a 1,200-foot separation between all community residents, and again, it has to be licensed or certified by the state of Florida. Adult congregate living facilities, again, has no maximum residents. It's based on life safety code and how you design the facility. It has a 660-foot separation between other adult congregate living facilities. I believe today we have a 1,200-foot separation, so we're going to make that like the other facilities. And an inpatient detoxification treatment center, again, it's no maximum. It's based on life safety code, 660-foot separation between other facilities, except for located not within the community service, and permitted in certain DMP districts with a Class B special use permit, as I said earlier. Just to give you a rundown, this is basically what the code text amendment would look like. We're taking our group 5 type homes and we prohibiting halfway houses, which are basically inmate release function for this. And we're basically taking out that section and we're adding 7A, B, C. And staff need to make an amendment. You're seeing the motion that we omitted D, because I needed to add some regulations for adult congregate living facility. So D was not in in the report. So staff is adding D, and that you'll see that in the motion, to basically give regulations for adult congregate living facilities within the DMP area. Staff recommends approval of code revision case number 21-05 with addition of, as stated, section 94-106-7D, and approval is based on the findings that petition meets all 8 of the required amendment standards found in section 94-32 of the zoning land development regulations. And staff be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Before we go into any questions, do we, John, have any public comment on this case?
Mr. Chair, no one's expressed any interest in making public comment on this item.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and close that public discussion portion of this case and move to any questions from the board members to staff.
Can you put up that slide that shows what we're deleting and what we're
Sure.
adding? The one before this, I think it's that showed the.
You done?
You go
Right.
back to the code changes,
Oh,
one or two slides back.
oh, what you added? I'm sorry. I thought you said the motion.
So, Rick, can you maybe just summarize the what the changes are specifically in layman's terms?
I thought it wasn't clear enough. Basically, the changes are today for DMP. It's just basically change in the name based on that and the distance separation. Today in DMP, group homes type 1 are allowed. Basically, sober homes are allowed today in any residential district. No, it's no distance separation, no specific number. The number is based on bathrooms today. And also, so right now, all we're doing is putting in distance separation, putting in a maximum number, which is in a sober home could be 10. Inpatient detoxification centers are the same as a group home type 5. The regulations really are not changing. We're just allowing, it's already allowed today. Those are your detox facilities. Adult conjugal, ACLFs are allowed today in DMP. All we're doing is taking a distance requirement at 660, because right now today I believe it's 1,000 square feet, and we're taking that and making it 660 feet. And same regulations today, we're taking the detox facilities, which are allowed, same zoning districts today, and taking it at 660 square feet. Those are the changes for the DMP area. I mean, it's more broader changes, but those are the base of the changes for the DMP.
And Michael, I'll add to what Angela said. You know, Daniel Lauber, the attorney who worked with us, this is what he's been doing pretty much across the nation. So a lot of it is really changing the nomenclature from a type 1, a type 2, a type 3, and a type 5 into what the actual facility is. And I think that might be what's a little bit confusing, but with the addition of the distance requirements that Angela talked about, it's not much of a change other than we're calling the facility what it actually is, as opposed to trying to distinguish between the difference between a type 1 and a type 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it gives us a, we don't basically have any regulations today for sober homes. Basically, they go in for the most part. So now we're giving some teeth to what we have in the code.
Okay, that clarifies it. Any other questions from other DAC members?
Yep. No. No one else? Okay. And, you know, Rick, I'm assuming staff is in complete agreement with all this nomenclature here.
Yeah, I'll say that Angela has been working with a consultant in our law department probably for the past
2
couple of years. Yeah. So I've been nagging her, we got to bring this forward. So we finally got to the point where we got everything codified. And I thank Law and Angela's hard work on all of this.
All right. Well, I'm glad. I'm sure you guys have vetted this all out and done your homework as usual. So I'm in complete agreement. Any other comments or questions from any other committee members? Anyone like to make a motion?
I just had a quick question.
Oh, good.
Yep. So maybe, Rick, could you explain just how it works from a, I guess, business standpoint? You know, an individual buys a 4-unit apartment building and he wants to do, or she wants to do, a sober home. And so if they're recovering people, do the people's family pay, or there's like
you want
an
me to do
insurance
that, Rick?
component?
Yeah,
You want me to
go
do
ahead,
it?
Angela. Yeah, I'll request for sober homes, and Nick come through Angela as the planning and zoning administrator. I'll let her answer it, but go ahead, Angela.
Nick,
Okay, sorry.
that's okay. If somebody has a triplex in downtown, we've had them before. Each triplex is considered a unit.
Right.
So you can have technically up to 10 in a unit. Now, it's considered also one property. So that's a little, so you have 4 units on a property, up to 10 people. Most people I've seen in downtown areas have been the sober home ones, have been the family. I haven't seen too many transitional, most of them in family. Well, basically they're in the last stage of their recovery, so they're basically there for, could be there for up to a year. So most of those are the ones I've seen downtown. You can rent a triplex and you can have basically, I don't know if housing code won't allow 10 in a unit, but you could do that. So you can have each unit could have certain number of people in there. And that's how they usually run, like mostly downtown. Most of your transitional are gonna be in the larger homes because there's a larger number of people. I've seen those mostly in like the larger homes in Old Northwood. Because people, they go back to the actual facility during the day. They're still going through recovery. They're still doing through classes. That's your transitional. Then they come back to the facility at night, and then that's where they live. And somebody's always there 24/7 monitoring them. So that's the difference. And recovery is just when you've gone through all of that. Recovery is just living in an apartment, and it's just basically geared toward people in recovery to basically hold each one accountable.
And virtually, they are requesting what is known as a reasonable accommodation, and that application has to go through Angela. And as everybody probably knows, 2 or 3 years ago, this was real problematic. As Angela mentioned, there was 137 sober homes in the city. Most of them were not operating legally. They were all kinds of insurance issues and fraud. So the state has tried to tie that up. And our consultant was in the middle of all that legislation and becoming familiar with the laws. So again, working with law, we're pleased to see that number is down to 30. And the presumption is hopefully those 30 are registered by the state, they're legitimate, and they're doing things properly. But we don't have the outcry that we had a couple years ago and some of the problems, or many of the problems that we were experiencing.
And based on this, most of a reasonable accommodation would not be required anymore, because most of the family and transitional community residents don't get up to 10 residents. I've never seen one with 10 residents in it. Most of them are maximum usually 8, 9.
Yeah.
Again, unless you're in the large homes in Old Northwood, something like that, like a B&B, those large homes.
Yeah, I guess my question was just on the mechanics of it. Like, how is this different than anybody else just renting somewhere? And I guess and I apologize, I really am not educated on it, and so it's a little naivety. But it's like if there's insurance fraud, does the state give somebody who is running this a bunch of money and they get grants or they get incentives to never ever change it because they're making a lot of money doing it as a sober home?
No, basically where sober home works, where like Rick said, it was very popular. You have to take a test. A lot of the residents have to take a urine test, because you can't stay in a sober home and use drugs. So they take a urine test, and that's how a lot of the operators during the heyday were basically take a urine test, and then they build an insurance company for urine tests. That's how basically they were making the money back, again, in the heyday when it was very popular. Also, some of the insurance companies do pay for, once they get out of detox, they do pay for their residents to transition into a transitional facility. So again, insurance companies were paying for that part of it also. And but now what we've seen, the insurance industry has really cut down on a lot of that. To get a sober home and to put in a claim, there's a lot of paperwork, and the regulations have changed. Before that, they just, like a term, pee in a cup, send a test into a lab and build an insurance company.
Several $100, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not doing that as frequent anymore, because the insurance company are not saying you got to give me all this paperwork. I need A, B, C, D, E, F. So it's not as easy anymore. So that's how they make their money, and that's how over the years that made their money with sober homes and transitional homes.
Okay, I appreciate that explanation. Thank you for that, Angela.
Roger?
Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Angela, thank you for the updates. It's, obviously a lot of work went into this. You worked with the attorney, and the city's, lawyers on this. It seems like it's kind of drilling down on it to kind of get it a little more organized. And I think that's going to help everyone in the future when these start to come through, either downtown or throughout the city, but downtown especially, because we have so much residential going in downtown. I mean, it'd be difficult to put this in play, in my opinion, in certain areas like the downtown. The last one that came through a few years ago was that facility at
on Tamron.
Cameron and I think it's Fern. Is that the
Yeah, I think it's between Fern and Vernier, I believe.
Vernier and Tamarin.
Vernier Tamron, and that one had a lot of issues with it. There were pushes at the state level. We had city commissioners involved trying to work with getting the help that's needed and putting these in the right location, and that seemed like a great location. And I don't know if there's been any issues with it, but if that's a model for it, then these regulations being honed in on, great job. And
Brian, that's an inpatient detoxification treatment center. It's not a sober home.
It was the highest level. It was the highest
Correct.
level.
Correct.
Great work on the regulations. Just want to commend you.
Thanks, Brian. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got a question, Roger.
You? Okay.
So Angela, through the city's current reasonable accommodation process, do you have like an annual recertification requirement or anything like that? Or does it really just come down to like any other, zoning decision? It's just governed by code enforcement. I guess my question is, if these things are no longer going to require a reasonable accommodation and there is nothing that requires them annually to come back to the city to say they're still operating, what other mechanisms are in place for the city to be able to, enforce?
Well, basically, it's two things. It's a reasonable accommodation is tied to their rental license or business tax. Today, if somebody comes in for a sober home, there's two questions we ask. It's the owner, the operator of the sober home, the owner of the property. It's the owner, the operator of a sober home. So if the owner is not the operator, he has to get a rental license. The operator of the sober home gets a business tax because it's a business they're operating. And again, like anything else, every year it's renewed based on our annual business tax renewal. One of the things we found, and then we found out, we have a list, so I know where they are. And every now and then I do send code out. We do check to see if they're still there, because we keep a list of all of our reasonable accommodations that we've issued. But the second thing is what our water department does. They consider this a commercial use. So if you have a rental home and you're renting it out for to a sober home facility, they get charged commercial rates for water and sewer. So believe me, as soon as they move out or as their owner comes in and takes that off their bill, because they now don't want to get charged for commercial rates when they're going to rent it out for just a single family home or just rent it out for an apartment complex. So that's how we caught a lot of them, and we shut down where found out they were closed. We also do it through code enforcement over time. Just have code enforcement go out and check and see what's out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Anyone else? Any questions, comments for staff?
Yeah, Gregory here. I had a short question. You had mentioned the 660. Can you just kind of elaborate on how that number was determined? Is it a state mandate number or something the city came up with?
No, it's based on the attorney we hired to do the analysis, and 660 is basically a city block based on his analysis. So he did the determination based on an average of a city block size. So that's where the 660 came in. So you basically limit to basically one per block, so you don't get an over concentration of them.
Okay. And based on based on that number, we will not get too many concentration, basically. That
Well,
would
based on that
prevent them
number,
to be
it
spread out.
should be one per block. Based on that
Okay.
number, it should be just one per block of the of basically all the group home types.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve code revision case number 21-05 with the addition of 94-1067D. This recommendation is based on the findings that the petition meets all 8 of the required amendment standards found in section 9432 of the zoning and land development regulations.
Second.
All right,
Mr.
thanks,
Chair,
Stephen.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair, this
John.
is John. Just for the record, Nick Mihalitch got bumped off the meeting.
Okay.
He's trying to log back in, so I don't know how you want to handle voting.
Well, we'll just Greg can vote, right? He's an alternate.
Yes.
Gregory. Okay, Gregory, you'll vote on this one. So we have motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm
Opposed?
back.
No.
Did
All right,
I make it?
You missed
So-
your opportunity. You can vote on the next one. Any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, the motion carries. It's approved. Thank you, Angela and staff. We'll move forward to the
Thank you.
next. Yeah, thanks a lot. The next case, code revision case 21-04, request by Stuart M. Latest on behalf of Clematis Realty Management. And if we could, are we going to start with the applicant's presentation, or is this going to go straight through staff?
Everybody just came in. Eric is the project manager on this, so
Okay.
Just a reminder, they have to be sworn in, right?
Yep. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's just a general code revision case that's going to apply to all of Clematis, so no one needs to be sworn in.
Okay. Eric, do you want to start with this one?
Okay, well, good morning. My first time ever presenting to DAC as well. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick on this case. Okay, so this is, as said, code revision case number 2104. It is a zoning code text amendment that is primarily going to cover the downtown area under the section 94-106.8.13. Well, there's also a definition change, which is the broader code. And as stated, it was an application by Stuart Ledis on behalf of Clematis Realty Management, who is the property owner of the building. It's actually at 416 Clematis Street. What happened was a veterinary clinic wanted to go into that space, and because it's on Clematis Street, which is within the Clematis Waterfront District, it's not permitted, the Clematis Waterfront District, Conservation District specifically. Veterinary clinics are not permitted there. So the applicant started a process by applying to allow the use within the CWD-CD. When staff started looking at this, and the whole classification there stated at the bottom of the screen, veterinary clinics, pet grooming, animal daycare, and boarding facilities. Staff started looking at this and to see what the regulations said. And that use is specifically prohibited in the areas outlined on the screen in front of you. The lower left is the Clematis Waterfront District, Conservation District in pink. It's outlined in the red. So they're not allowed there. And then we also have a section that's in text written in the code that says Dixie Highway between Lofton and Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. Well, that's actually now quadrille. So you can see in the red where they're not permitted. So staff started with this based on what the applicant proposed. And then on the screen is where the applicant specifically wants to go in, the little green box in the lower left on the map. So as I mentioned, we looked at the regulations and determined that they're too restrictive based on how the downtown has been building out. We're getting many more residential units being built. I know you guys see those buildings a lot of times come in on your site plan reviews and other requests. And obviously we can look out the window and see the cranes around us and the buildings that have been built for residential purposes. Many of those people have pets. So in order to have the continuation of people having all their services provided downtown and not have to go drive out to Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard to have veterinary service or pet daycare or anything else, we started looking at it and saying, what do we need to do to enable the folks living downtown to meet their needs for veterinary clinics, pet grooming, animal daycare, boarding, within the downtown. So the first thing we did was realize that the restriction on Dixie Highway doesn't make any sense anymore. We're not even sure 100% why it was put there. So we're proposing to remove that restriction along Dixie Highway on the map I showed you on the former page. That would open all the uses there. Also, the residential enclaves, except for our sub-districts. And as you're aware, the residential enclaves cover primarily the Northwest neighborhood and Brailsford Park. The areas along Tamarind, the areas is not in our sub-district. It is a residential enclave. So that is commercial uses. We'll just use Tamarind as the example there. So there are some areas on the fringes of those residential enclaves where it is appropriate that you would be able to do these uses or staff's determination. One thing we did look at, though, was going to the specifics of the application was what is appropriate along Clematis Street, which is basically the CWD-CD. And staff felt that veterinary clinics are appropriate there as well as pet grooming. And this goes back to the fact that the required retail was lifted from that district a couple years ago. And so now similar uses, medical clinics, similar to veterinary clinics, just a different clientele. Pet grooming is a service use. If you could put a nail salon in on Clematis Street, why can't you put a pet grooming? It's, so we took a look at that and said that those were appropriate uses on Clematis Street within the CWD-CD. We did look at the full use that includes animal daycare and boarding facilities, and we determined that that's not appropriate because if you look on Clematis Street, obviously it's the wider part of downtown, they are still allowed there. One of the things that happens, and it goes with my next comment there, is it's mainly the pickup and drop off. A lot of those, even if you have people walking from their office, picking their dog up and going back to their apartment on Clematis Street, you will have people that will drop off via car, say they are employees downtown. That is a heavy, during drop off and pickup, is a heavy use time. And it doesn't lend itself to the conditions along Clematis Street where there's no driveways, there's no pickup points, etc. So we determined that that's not appropriate. Those parts of the use are not appropriate along Clematis Street. The other thing that we looked at was the use currently requires a Class B special use permit, which is would have to come to the DAC anytime anybody wanted to put it in anywhere that is permitted in the downtown. And staff looked at what outside of downtown requires. And if you can meet the requirements, you're able to just go in outside of downtown. So this is actually more restrictive than what outside of downtown allows. And which when staff reviewed it, we determined that is restrictive, too restrictive for a business owner that wants to come in. If they can meet all the requirements, why do they have to go to DAC just for DAC to say, yes, that's okay? So adding time and cost to the services going in. So we're proposing that be removed. You will see, as I talked in the report and further in the slide, we did add some additional standards that could be waived that are put in place for projection from surrounding that If they meet them, they can go straight in without the special use. But then if they do not, they could come to the DAC and request a waiver from those standards. And if DAC granted it, then they could go in. And then looking at this throughout the code, and I mentioned this earlier, in our definitions section, clinic talks about that there's no overnight services permitted. It's an outpatient system. That doesn't work for some animal care for vets. If they have treatment and they have to stay overnight, we specifically changed the regulations, and I'll show you how all this works out. It's in the code, in the backup material as well, that we are proposing to amend that definition specifically for veterinary clinics, and that would apply citywide, not just downtown. So here's the language, 94-106-A.13. The underline is added language. The strike through is removed language. And I do want to clarify that what you see in yellow on the screen, I got a little overzealous and removed it from what I put in the, pre-removed it from what was in the code. I didn't strike it. I just removed it on accident. So the language will change to correct wording missing there, where the first underline animal daycare. It will remove the prohibition within the CWD and along Dixie Highway, and then add the residential enclaves except our sub-districts. We'll remove the special use requirement and change that word conditions to additional standards, which is consistent with the rest of our code when it talks about going before a special use permit. So then under A, here's one that we added. It says all facilities shall be located within an enclosed building. This would apply to, and we've had this requested by mainly pet daycare outside of the downtown, places that do specifically pet daycare, where they will request a waiver for an outdoor area so they can take the dogs outside next to the building. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Very Important Paw, VIP, I think it's Very Important Paws is the full name of it, on Park, just south of downtown. It's the closest one to downtown of pet daycare, where they requested a waiver and they have an outdoor area where they take some of the dogs, primarily, I would guess, outside to walk during the day. So if the building in the area is appropriate, the DAC could waive it through a Class B special use process. But if they were totally enclosed in the building, then there's no need to go to DAC. B and C did not change from what is currently in the code. D also did not change from, and E did not change from what's in the current code and current requirements. F we added to specifically prohibit animal daycare and boarding facilities in the CWD-CD. That's not waivable. Then we did add the specific allowance on G that veterinary clinics within the CWD-CD may only provide overnight boarding for animals receiving required treatment. That is so that it's only treatment and not it doesn't morph into, well, we're doing veterinary clinic as well as boarding, as my vet does, not in the downtown, but so we wanted to make sure that was specifically written in there, that boarding in the CWD-CD for a vet is only with treatment. Once again, if you have a vet outside of this, anywhere else in the downtown other than the CWD-CD, you can do the vet services and overnight boarding because that's part of the use. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then the last one, we're adding this provision about the animal daycare, specifically for having either parking area, circular drive, or dedicated street parallel park drop-off pickup spaces. One space for 3 pets that can be boarded, or 3 spaces. And this is so that when people during the peak drop-off and pickup times, there is a place for people to actually be off the roadway and out of the travel lanes, because it is a high turnover, and we don't want people blocking with thinking they're just going to run in real quick and pick up their dog or cat and then run back out while no one notices that they're parked in the middle of the travel lane. So once again, if they can't meet that, but there are other conditions that could alleviate that, they could come before the DAC and ask for a waiver of that standard as part of a Class B special use. So there's no actual additional it's actually making it easier for them to come in. Right now, they would need a Class B regardless, whether they had the parking or not. So if they can meet it, they can go straight in. to a building. And then the last part is what the clinic, as you can see, the underline, we specified that and broke it kind of out that medical, dental, and surgical are only outpatients and do not have overnight, but veterinary clinics can provide overnight boarding for animals receiving required treatment. So, and once again, while the original application was done by a private entity and staff looked at it and broadened the scope of it because that was appropriate, we found that the original application request did meet the standards, but also the broader one that staff is proposing meets the amendment standards. The broader version will allow the applicant to do what they asked to do on Clematis Street at 416 Clematis Street. And then we did get 5 letters of support from Clematis Street businesses for permitting veterinary clinics on Clematis Street. And that was really done by the applicant, had reached out to Clematis business owners to get their support when it was still just focused, limited only to putting the veterinary clinic on Clematis Street. So that's staff's presentation. Are there any questions of staff?
Let's see. I don't immediately. Thank you for the clear presentation, Eric. Anyone have any questions for Eric?
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question. Eric, is it staff's intention to deal with animal daycare and boarding facilities that want to ask for an outdoor dog run or outdoor area to handle the Class B special use on a case-by-case basis? They don't want to set the parameters for size limitations or distance, separation items, whatever. Now they want to deal with it as it comes in on a case-by-case basis. Is that the intention?
Yes, that is correct, Brian. We don't know. Right now, we don't want to say outside is appropriate everywhere. It may not be appropriate because, as an example, somebody comes in on Dixie Highway and they're right behind them is a residential in Providencia Park. And so it wouldn't be appropriate to have an outdoor dog facility there. But maybe if somebody was in along, I guess that's Railroad Avenue, where it would be appropriate to have an outdoor. There's another use that doesn't have it outside, or somehow other way they could do it to, because they're at the end of the block, and it would be appropriate. But then the DAC could look at that after staff makes an analysis, and then we would make the recommendation of whether it's appropriate or not, and then DAC would make that final recommendation.
Right. I mean, great legislation. I mean, we have so many residences going in downtown. It's obviously a use that's needed. It wasn't, why it makes sense now to implement it. It's good action, and the protections seem to be in place. So great job, Eric. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Anyone else questions for staff? No, before I forget, were there any public comments on this? I'm glad to see that you guys got, or at least the applicant got some letters from the immediate neighbors there, but any other public inquiries?
I forgot to mention the applicant is here, or the applicant, members from the applicant's team are here in case you do have any questions of them.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
And Mr. Chair, no one's expressed interest in making public comment on this item.
Okay, thanks. We'll close the public discussion portion then. Any other questions of Eric or any other staff members? Michael, Greg?
Nope.
Okay, no, well, it all sounds reasonable to me. As usual.
Recommend
approval. Yeah, go. Please.
I make a recommendation of approval of CRC 21-02.
Oh, wait, that's yeah. It actually should be 2104 on that slide. I apologize.
Right. 2104 approval is based on the findings that the text amendments meet all 8 amendment standards found in section 94-32 of the zoning and land development regulations.
Okay. Good. Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, none opposed. Motion is approved as recommendation stated. So thank you again, staff, for your thorough and clear presentation. And that moves us to, okay, well, that's it for today. Any unfinished business or any new business from any of the committee members you'd like to raise while we're here together?
I just have one quick question for Rick. Just going back to our last meeting with the discussion on TDRs. I was just reviewing the minutes and just had a question. Where is Seaboard Station?
Seaboard Station is in the midst of the Transit Village project at the southwest corner of Banyan and Tamarind Avenue. It's the train station for Amtrak. So the
For the
Seaboard
tri-rail.
Station.
is the
Oh,
building
okay.
that serves there.
Oh, okay. That's so that must be kind of an older name, I guess, for that.
Yeah, it
location.
is the historic name.
Yeah.
Okay, the historic name. Okay, great.
I will say, Michael, while you mentioned that, we are in discussions right now with the county about moving the intermodal transit center, what we refer to as the ITC, where all the buses, the Palm buses come, moving that out onto Tamarind Avenue. This is something that we have been discussing for some time that we, the city, are interested in doing. So we've been having ongoing discussions with the county. We're meeting with the mayor this afternoon to formalize a letter that we've drafted. Part of that discussion is that we want to push and we want the county support on the extension of Fern Street over to Australian Avenue. So there's a lot of moving parts on that. So you'll probably be seeing more on that in the future.
I was actually, when you started talking about that, I was hoping that that was because of the potential to get that crossing there on Fern Street. That would be that would be really exciting, and I think fantastic. So that it's good to hear that's still moving forward.
Yes. Yeah, and I will say Anna got a little bit of a reprieve, but she has been extremely busy. So you'll see, you know, I'm a big believer in cross training, so that's why you'll see other folks appearing before the DAC with Liz's departure. So you'll probably be seeing a little bit more of that in the future. I think the next 2 months, we're going to be bringing a lot of interesting and exciting cases to the DAC. It's keeping us extremely busy. You've heard the terminology of, you know, Wall Street of the South, and we have been meeting with countless numbers of firms. Spent Monday with a firm out of California that wants to come downtown and bring 600 new employees. So we hope they agree to that. But 360 Rosemary, hopefully we'll get their first TCO next month. They expect to be fully leased when they open. So it's amazing how much is going on right now. Our building permit revenues just last month doubles what we've averaged the last 6 years. So despite the pandemic, we have never been busier. So,
Rick, what's the when are you going to have another developers meeting so you can update everyone on building permit numbers and job starts and new projects?
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Brian, because we did a presentation to this group on Monday from California. They had 7 or 8 executives in that presentation, and Business Development Board spent the entire day with them, showing them sites in different places downtown. And the presentation I showed them was almost what we would do in a developer outreach. If we did it, we've been having discussions the last couple of weeks as to whether we can do it via Zoom. So that's something we're thinking about. We're just so busy right now that, you know, to set aside time to put that together might take some time, but it's something we're talking about. I don't think we can do it live just yet, but maybe we can do it with a Zoom meeting, and you know, we expect we might get a couple hundred people show up to that.
You don't have to eat lunch, Rick. Just saying.
Yeah.
One just quick follow up. I believe that the news on 360 Rosemary is that it's already somewhere in the area of 96% leased, and I know it was maybe a few meetings ago. It was mentioned that Related was potentially looking to break ground on one Flagler this year. Is there any new movement on that as far as permitting?
Yeah,
or
Anna will be bringing an amendment to you. They're doing a slight tweak. Their hope is to be underway in September. Apparently, they haven't started leasing the building yet, but 100,000 of the 275,000 square feet is already leased, even though they haven't started that process yet, is what Related has told us. But Anna, I don't know if you want to mention the amendment. I guess that's coming next month as well.
Yes, they are doing some changes to the design of the open space along Flagler and Lakeview and their drop-off area. So because we consider those substantial changes on the way the project is going to operate and look, we are bringing them in front of the board next month for your approval. Basically, what we consider an amendment to the special review that the DAC gave them last year. So that will come in front of you next month, and they are finalizing with that will be the final items that need to be done for the site plan approval, and they will move straight to building permit after that.
Yeah. And again, they've told us they hope to be under construction by September or shortly thereafter. So we'll see.
Exciting. Okay, great. That's fantastic.
I had a real quick question too, just I guess with regard to the place called Hive there. It's right at the north end of the Woodlawn Cemetery and Norton. And so I guess that was where the old Ambrosia restaurant was. They redeveloped that corner. I think they have the one facility, whether it's, I guess, interior design, but the corner is something I pass every day driving my son to school. And it made me remember to try to ask today, like, what's going on? Because it seems like the outside of the building's done, but the inside is not. It's just been like that for quite a long time. I just was curious about, is there going to be some kind of, cafe at the corner, or is it somehow not happening for some reason or the other?
Nick, I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that, see if Angela has seen anything on that. But that's news to me. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was just sort of real excited about, sort of redeveloped corner, and I think neighborhood cafe coming or something right there. And there's a bunch of scaffolding and concrete on the inside that's been like that for a very long time. So just curious. I appreciate it.
All right. I'll look into it.
Thank you. All for me.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, if that's it, we can adjourn. Again, thanks all the committee members for taking time to join today. And again, of course, staff, thank you for all your hard work in making the city a better place. It's Rick, extremely exciting time with everything real estate related. So we're excited, as you all are, I'm sure, to see how things progress here. So that's it then. Thanks, everyone. We'll adjourn today's meeting.
Thank you
Thank you
very
all.
much.
Thank
See you
you.
next month.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.